Hello, my name is James. Today I'm going to be your inspector. Today we're going to be talking about an installation of a PD TRC40V. Okay, so what I'm going to be showing and talking to you about now is the best and easiest way to put this in. The best way to do this is dig you a ditch somewhere between 48 to 55 inches deep, depending on how your elevations are. And all your piping and plumbing, including your secondary side, will be installed at that time. You put that to the bottom of the ditch, and then you're going to bring that back up with gravel. With these 4-inch blocks that sits in the corner, your vault on the high side should sit no more than 36 inches from the grade, because that's what we're looking for. These vaults are 36 inches tall, and we want the vaults to sit at grade. So what we're going to be looking for now, even though we are sitting on fairly flat ground, we have a slight slope to it. We're looking for the high side to be able to measure where our first block and our first measurement of 36 inches at the top of that block goes. He's already put in all of his piping and plumbing, has all of his gravel placed in here. Now we're going to look at our first block to see where our first measurement's at. This grade is not finished yet, but it will be. He's close enough that we can go ahead and let this go, because 36 inches is going to be here. He's going to be bringing in some topsoil and some other things in here, but where we're at sitting on top of the block currently is at 32 inches. I know that he's going to be bringing this grade up. This vault's going to look like we're sticking out of the ground approximately 3 to 4 inches on the high side. So you may be wondering why we have these paver blocks in the corners here. This is for settling purposes. These are quite heavy. We don't want them getting out of shape once the things around us start moving. Even though you have backfilled and will continue to backfill with 1-inch clean rock, we're going to be using 4 of these pavers, 1 in each corner. In our 3-phase vaults, you'll see that we actually use 12. So what I want to talk about to you real quick is the size of this vault and how heavy this vault is. It's approximately 1,200 pounds, and the lid that goes on is approximately 600 pounds. So we need to make sure that you have the proper lifting equipment, the proper strapping. What I don't want to see is chains. Chains will cause these things to collapse, especially if you lift them at a low picking point, because it puts all that weight to the center and they will collapse. I've already seen that happen, and we don't want to have to be able to deal with that. So be sure you're using the proper things. So we've come to the portion now where I'm going to show you that we got the vault successfully backfilled. We've leveled it, we've set it on top of the paver blocks in the corners, and we're good and solid. The contractor backfilled around here with gravel on the outsides of the windows, and now I'm going to show you the gravel floor in the vault and how the piping and the ground rod all comes up through the bottom of the floor. So we brought the gravel floor up to the bottom of these windows. The reason why we put gravel in here is because we don't want the ground to come in and flood this with just a bunch of muck, keep the animals out, things like that. So we bring this gravel floor up, and what I want to see is this piping, our 2-inch conduits, 3-inch, whatever it is that you may be using on your side, the ground rod, no more than 6 inches above the gravel floor of this. So the grade of the gravel comes up to the top of the windows, and then I want to see this. This is our primary with the bell end installed, somewhere between 4 and 6 inches above grade of this gravel. You may need to trim a little bit of that off to achieve that, depending on how deep that your ditch is, and I'm okay with that. Just don't cut into the radius of that. Make sure the burrs are removed, put our bell end back on there, and we're going to be just fine. Same way with our ground rod. 4 to 6 inches above this gravel floor. This ground rod is 8 foot long. It takes a little bit to drive it in the ground, but you can do it. Make sure that goes in the ground. We have 6 inches above, no more than 6 inches above this gravel floor. So the contractor side is installing these secondaries, and we also would like to have those cut down to where they're nice and tidy like. So before we put the lid on here, what we wanted to do is go ahead and install the ground rod clamp that I will provide for you, and approximately 10 foot of number 2 stranded copper, which I also will provide for you whenever I show up for the pre-con. So when I show up for the pre-con to kind of go over what it is I need to see whenever these are being installed, I'm going to be bringing one of these lifting eyes to be able to put inside these lids. These are much easier and they're a balanced way to be able to pick these up. They just have a nylon insert, and it just comes out with just a simple straight screwdriver. Do not lose this. Be sure and put that back in, because sometimes we have to take these lids back off, and this is how we get them off. So we're getting ready to put this lid on here. One thing I wanted to point out is be sure that this here has been swept off, cleaned off, or brushed off or something. One pebble can cause this to wobble and rock, and if we set 167 kVA transfer on top of that, this top is liable to crack. So we want to make sure that this does not have any wobble and it sits perfectly flat. So whenever we're finished with the installation, what I'm actually looking for is to be able to come here, look at the depth and everything's been put in properly. This would have already been completely backfilled. Lid set on. What I'm looking for is when I look down the center of this window, our primary's on the left, ground rod has been installed properly, ground wire with ground clamp has already been attached. Our secondary's on the right, and this is what I'm looking for. So I always end this video with these. Be safe, be sure and use the proper lifting equipment for these heavy vaults. And always call on your locates. Call 1-800-DIG-RIGHT or call 811. If you have any questions about installing these, please call 417-450-7347, or you can call our tech house at 417-831-8888. As always, be safe.